Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad that you're here today. We're here to talk about our passion project. You may be wondering what it is and why we're pulling together this series of videos, but I hope what I'm going to do is explain to you what I worked on and how I tackled a problem that I saw and all the ways I moved from idea to actually implementation. And now I've been able to sit back and enjoy what has actually happened with a feeling of achievement and success and excitement for what the future has in store. What I've developed is a series of videos that will walk you through each of the steps as I've encountered them, from the idea to the implementation, to talking to people who maybe didn't want to talk to me, trying to find a network, getting buy-in, inspiring people, and connecting people who didn't know each other, had never met before, but would ultimately change the shape of what this property was, and built a community, and just a lot of interesting things that I get a lot of energy around, and I'm hoping that you do too. The goal will be to present these ideas to you in a way that you can kind of think about and incorporate into your own passion project. I'm certainly not the expert, but it is kind of an unbelievable series of events that lined up, and I'm just thinking, if I can do this, then you can do this. If I'm just a regular person who had an idea, you can also bring your idea from up here into the universe. So that's what we're here to kind of talk about in this series of videos. I'm so glad that you're joining me. I really appreciate your time. And any feedback, any comments that you have, any things that you'd like to ask me specifically, I'd be happy to answer your questions and share my experiences with you. Let's get started. So what did I do? Well, there was a resort that was very, very special to me, but through the course of the time that I was familiar with this resort, it went from this amazing place to this sad, almost abandoned property. And people would say, why do you love this place so much? It's really nothing. It's really been bankrupt. It's been forgotten. Nobody ever makes money there. Why are you interested in this? Well, I was interested in it because it was a life-changing experience for me. And I sat back and watched it kind of go through a series of owners, from disrepair, abandonment, and felt that this property should be much more than what it was. So we took this sad, terrible, abandoned place and found an investor, found an operator, and put them together in the room. We got the right people in the room to make something happen. And it's actually truly unbelievable to me that it actually even did happen. I'm just a regular person. I had no experience in this. I am a professional person, but I do not have professional experience in any of the areas that would typically be required to accomplish these things. So really what it came down to is that I had the heart for it. And so that's the purpose today. The purpose is to say, if I can do it, you can do it. And so let's start. You might be wondering, how did this project actually become a project? Well, this began as a hastily planned spring break trip over a decade ago. We were supposed to be going someplace else, and those plans fell through. So we ended up trying to find another place to go to, and we ended up at this resort. It was something we had never heard of, we had never seen, didn't know anybody who had traveled there. It was just really the result of a Google search. It was just YOLO, let's just do it. And so we packed up the kids. It was 2 kids, 2 dogs, took a long car ride, took a ferry ride, took a trolley ride, and took a golf cart ride until we ended up at this place. It was unlike anything we had ever seen or even imagined before. I mean, we saw the pictures, but we had no idea how lucky we were to be at this place. It was just, for lack of a better word, it just felt magical. It felt like the place that we were supposed to be at. It wasn't luxurious, it wasn't 5-star, it didn't have a million amenities, it wasn't all Instagram worthy, it was just really perfect. It was a great family vacation. It felt peaceful, it felt tranquil, it really felt like, for the first time ever in my entire life, it felt like this was the place that I was supposed to be. I can't describe it any other way of just knowing that I had been searching and this was the place. It was a belonging and a feeling I had never had before. It was so special, in fact, that we ended up buying a piece of property on our car ride home. I mean, completely impulsive, unplanned, spontaneous. There are 1,000 reasons why you should not do that. And yet we did it anyway. It just was, and we knew them. We knew all the reasons why you shouldn't be that impulsive. And generally speaking, we're not that impulsive, but yet we still did it anyway. It was incredible. And we had imagined that it was going to be, if it was this great right now, can't imagine how amazing it would be as the years went on, as the children got older, as our experiences grew, as we became more familiar with this place. It could only get better from here. Well, that's actually not what ended up happening. About a year or so after we bought our property, the resort actually went through a bankruptcy, and that was devastating. And it was just all the things that we had imagined it was going to be. It turned out that none of those things were going to happen. We were still able to travel there, and we were still able to use some of the things that were special about the property, but it was not as we had intended it to be. So we were thrilled a few years after that we learned someone else had bought this property and it was out of bankruptcy. That person came with a bunch of huge plans for reinvention of this place, and it was going to be back to its former glory and even beyond that. It was just amazing what was planned for it. Well, none of those things happened either. And so the resort went through another bankruptcy, and it ended up being owned by its largest creditor. That creditor did maintain the property, but never poured any money into it. So the resort went through 2 hurricanes, just wear and tear, and really had the function of time on here. It's like, a lot of withdrawals from the property, a lot of people using it, but no investment back in. So it just deteriorated. It became a shell of its former self. There was wear and tear and just the structures in some of the beach, all the amenities, the transportation component. There were a lot of things that had just been cobbled together and were really just kind of failing. So it was a shell of its former self. It almost became too painful to even go there. So we essentially stopped vacationing there. It was just heartbreaking being there, seeing what it was versus what it was at one time. And the reality of that was just very difficult to reconcile. So although we stopped vacationing there, we never stopped loving this place. It just always meant so much. We talked about it, we would imagine it. And while we had been there, we had always said, if only this and that would happen, and if only someone would come along and do this or that, and if only, and if only. And then finally one day, I just said, if only is not going to happen. If only, somebody needs to pull people together in order to make if only a reality. And that's what I had intended to do. That was one day I just said, no one else is doing this. Why can't it be me? Why can't it be me, the person who can get the right people together to actually make something happen? So essentially, that was my project. So having said all of that, I bet you're wondering, how did it get from the idea of reimagining, reinventing this special place, this resort, and the community in which it lives, from this broken down, kind of abandoned place? How did it get from that idea to the place that it is today? It has a new owner, it has a new operator, and it has, by all accounts, a very bright future in front of it. How did we go from up here to this new reality? And it is such a substantial project. It is tens of millions of dollars of investment into this community just for the construction and the reimagination. Never mind the tourism dollars and the lives that are going to be changed by having money flowing into this community that has not had tax and all kinds of revenue brought to it. All the things that can happen, education systems, all of these lives that will be impacted by this reinvestment in this community. How did we go from this idea to this reality? And so I just want to tell you some of the things that we are going to talk about in future episodes. I want to share these because we're going to be diving into them in future videos. I also want to call your attention to the fact that we have some infographics for your use. These ideas will kind of help you kind of apply these concepts to what you're working on, so that you'll kind of keep some of these bullet points and ideas and flow of a project in front of you, and you can fill in the blanks as it relates to something that you're thinking about. So the first step was I really had to define what the vision was. It was great conceptually to think like, if only that we had a new this or that, or the resort had 1 million rooms or 10 rooms, or was used for this function or whatever. So what was I actually even talking about? What was the vision? I couldn't really go and talk to people about something that was just abstract. I had to give people concrete ideas so that they could actually believe and start to dream their own dream, and how they could use their resources and how those resources could fit into this project. So I had to really define the vision. And then once I started doing that, I sketched out a plan. I actually had 2 different roads that I could go down. I could go down the road of having a traditional resort. I could go down the road of having almost a non-traditional resort that served a different market. So I had almost 2 different plans, and they would vary depending on who I was speaking with. So I had to build a network. I didn't have a professional network that included vendors and architects and investors and angel investors. I didn't have those. So once I started building my network, I then had to redefine my plan based on the feedback of these industry experts and people who were subject matter experts in these fields. They would provide guidance of saying, these are some things from past projects that have worked, or these are the people that you should talk to. It's amazing the people that I spoke to all around the world who, if they weren't able to help me, they may put me in touch with somebody who could help me. I mean, people are incredibly generous. If you ask them for a specific thing, people can tell you, yes, I can help you, or no, I'm not the right person, but I do know somebody who may be able to help you. So that's building a network. I would redefine that, my plan based on their feedback, and then connecting all the players. These were people who didn't necessarily know each other and who were interested, but didn't know whether the parties that I was introducing them to were credible, were ethical, were well-funded. So, you had to connect the right people together. But maybe one of the most important things of all was being clear to the mission. It was avoiding mission drift. It was, people would say to me, well, you're so passionate about this project, you should really consider a formal role in it. Or people would question, well, why are you doing this? What is your motivation? And so I had to be clear to say, I am not a part of this. I am not going to be employed here. I am not looking for you to pay me. I'm just looking for this. And so I would let the people who were the experts do what they were best at. My role was really a connector. So I had a very, very clear mission, and I stuck to that mission no matter how tempting it was to kind of step out of that. So that's really where we were at, and that's what I hope to kind of bring you through as part of this project, is talking about all these different things. And lastly, I want to leave you with just these couple of thoughts. My message to you is that I am a regular person. I am, like I said before, not experienced in this. This is not my area of expertise. So I want to inspire you to know that if I can do this, you can do this. I didn't have the hospitality, the global connections. I didn't have any of that. I just had an idea. So my goal for you through this video series is to really be the person for you that I was seeking. I would have loved to have just a regular person like me. I mean, you can go and you can find TED Talks and you can find industry experts on whatever it is that you're thinking about right now, but I would have preferred to have somebody who just had an idea and just did it. You know, the experts are great because they certainly know what they're doing, but I would have found it more aspirational to have something from just a person who just put their dream out there and stuck with it through many difficult times where people would say, this isn't your area of expertise. This isn't even something you should even be doing. So I would have really drawn some energy from somebody like me. And that's really what I hope to do for you, is to inspire you and to let you know that you're supported. I want you to feel supported to take your next step into whatever passion project it is and wherever that brings you. So thank you for joining me today, and I just want to let you know, small steps, big dreams, we're in it together, and I really appreciate you listening. Thank you.